number 9 LSU, at number 4 Clemson, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Storyline is, who is the real Death Valley? Because both Clemson and LSU are known as Death Valley in college football. LSU head coach Brian Kelly added kerosene to that debate this offseason when he said Clemson was, quote, Death Valley Jr. is what he called him this offseason. And TJ Parker, the Clemson star edge rusher, responded to that by saying they can have their opinion. We'll settle all that on August 30th. So there's some bad blood between these two programs right now, between two Death Valleys. These are two programs, though, besides that want to compete for a national title in 2025, thanks in large part to two Heisman Trophy candidates at quarterback in Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier. Cade Klubnik was both Dalton and I's pick to win the Heisman this year. Garrett Nussmeier, I believe, has the second best odds to win the Heisman this year on DraftKings.
Second or third.
They're both top 3.
Somewhere that I know Jeremiah Smith's up there too.
Yeah,
somewhere.
I think Garrett Nussmeier's number 2 behind Arch Manning. But yeah, these are two programs that have star quarterbacks. Garrett Nussmeier actually changed his number to number 18 this offseason. It's the leader of LSU too. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what this game produces. And yeah, Garrett Nussmeier is second in odds, actually tied for second in odds with Cade Klubnik. So 2 of the top 3 Heisman candidates in this game, and Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik, and what could be a massive game, not only for the Heisman race, but also the college football playoff race as well. Don, you have the Clemson offense with Cade Klubnik in this game. What should we know when they have the ball?
Well, we should know that Cade Klubnik in the Clemson passing game is going to be one of the best in the country. He has the highest passing grade of any quarterback returning in the FBS. He's got 3 great receivers in Antonio Williams and Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore, and they're going to attack downfield. He had the 6th best passing grade on 10-plus yard targets last year. Now, the big question with LSU, as it has been the last couple of years, is their secondary going to show up in big moments? Since the start of 2023, Max, they are 54th out of 68 teams in the Power 4 in coverage grade. Last year, 95th in the country in coverage grade, 98th in yards per attempt allowed, 103rd in explosive pass rate allowed. I mean, it's just... This has been the downfall. If you want a singular reason why LSU has not made the playoff despite explosive offenses the last couple of years, it's this secondary. It's their inability to cover in general, right? So this year, look, went and got Virginia Tech transfer Mansour Delane at corner, Tamarcus Cooley at safety from NC State, A.J. Halsey at safety from Houston. You're getting Harold Perkins back at linebacker, who was I think he had the highest coverage grade for the team in 2023. You're looking at
DJ Pickett, too, coming in.
And DJ Pickett, a freak 6'5" true freshman corner coming in. They have thrown all of the darts at the wall of this secondary now. If this doesn't work this year, I really don't know when it will, because they've gotten veteran guys, they've got young, talented guys. They desperately need to not get in so many shootouts because they're relying on Garrett Nussmeier, as they did the year before with relying on Jaden Daniels too much. Offenses like this should not lose as many games as they do. And it's simply because they haven't been able to cover. You just can't be in the SEC and be 95th in coverage grade. They've got a massive test right off rip at one of the Death Valleys, week 1 against Cade Klubnik in this passing game, which absolutely exploded last year. If LSU secondaries, that's the unit I'm watching in this game. They have to be better. If they're not, we're going to get the same old result.
And if they are, the one weakness I would say for Clemson is the lack of a true answer at running back right now. If you make Clemson rely on their run game in this game, that's the avenue for LSU to win this game.
Absolutely. I think, and it's funny because you wouldn't think with Clemson's defense that LSU would want to get in a low-scoring game, but they also might not have a choice. And I know you're about to talk about some things with Clemson's defense, but I don't think you can sit here and assume you're going to walk in there and score 35, 40 points on this team. You have to be able to keep yourself in it and make stops against really good passing games, and they're seeing an elite one this week right off rip.
My matchup to know is, can LSU's new look offensive line handle, in what is my opinion, the best defensive line in college football? So LSU last year had one of the best offensive lines in the country, but they lost 4 of 5 starters from that unit. In the 2025 NFL Draft. All 4 of them were drafted, including the number 4 overall pick in Will Campbell, their left tackle. The only returning starter from that unit was DJ Chester, but he was the 7th lowest graded center in the Power 4 last year with only a 49.5 PFF grade, and he'll likely be playing left guard for them this year. Now, they added a couple really solid players in the portal, and Josh Thompson, a guard from Northwestern, and center Braylon Moore from Virginia Tech, both of them had 76 pass blocking grades last year. But their two projected starting tackles, Tyree Adams and Weston Davis, have only played a combined 162 snaps in their career so far. Now, all of that could be a major issue, considering Clemson, in my opinion, like I said, has the best defensive line in the country, two of the top 10 players in the country in Peter Woods and TJ Parker, my number 1 D tackle in Peter Woods, my number 3 edge rusher in TJ Parker. Peter Woods leads all returning Power 4 D tackles over the last 2 years in run defense grade and in pass rush win rate. TJ Parker led all returning Power 4 edge rushers last year with 12 sacks, and he was one of only 3 Power 4 edge rushers last year with 80-plus grades as both a run defender and as a pass rusher. Garrett Nussmeier last year was very solid under pressure. He had the 24th best passing grade in the country under pressure. But he's not very mobile. He's not much of a threat with his legs, and he really likes to deliver from a clean pocket. If you do not give him those clean pockets all night on Saturday night, it could be a very long night for this LSU offense.
Yeah, I'm a tad uncomfortable with the idea of LSU's lack of balance. And you mentioned it. I think one advantage that Clemson does have in this game is that Nussmeier doesn't add much as a runner. Cade Klubnik does, right? He can be a part of the running game also. But here's a fun fact for you, and this is where the offensive line is going to come in, especially against Peter Woods and those guys. So last year, in all 4 of Clemson's losses, they gave up 170 rushing yards or more, right? Max, I'm going to pop quiz you. How many times last year did LSU run for 170 yards?
Once or twice.
1 time, and that came against South Alabama. If you don't have balance, if you don't find some sort of balance to me with Caden Durham and this running game for LSU, and you can't just rely on Nussmeier against this defense to drop back and beat him every snap. If you don't have some sort of balance, I think you have a huge problem against Clemson because you just don't want them sitting back there. We'll see how Tom Allen's calling the defenses too. That's another story. Tom Allen, their new defensive coordinator. But with all of the talent, especially the pass rush talent against a new offensive line, you do not want to be constantly in 3rd and 9 trying to play catch up on the chains because you can't run the football. And LSU last year, their best games are when they had balance and they could run the football. I even think back to the South Carolina game when they were down early and the momentum came back because of the run game, because of Caden Durham, because they had balance, and you could leave these defenses off balance and on their heels. If LSU doesn't find a way to balance this thing out, I get really worried because this Clemson defense is too good to be one-dimensional against them.
I really like the LSU running backs they have, right? Caden Durham's a really good player.
Yeah.
Harlan Berry, the number 1 running back out of high school, could have a huge impact year 1 for them too. But we've seen it. We said it time and time again here at PFF. If you don't have a good offensive line, I don't care how good your running backs are, it's really hard to have a really good run game if your offensive line has too many problems.
And these are big monsters inside here that Clemson has. When you got Parker and Woods and DeMonte Capehart and these guys, it is to me the biggest concern on that side of the ball is, I mean, legitimately, can LSU block Clemson? We're going to talk about that a lot with a lot of teams, but can LSU block Clemson? Can they block them? Because those are superstars up front.
So I predicted LSU and Clemson to make the playoff. I predicted Clemson to win it all this year. You had Clemson in your national title game too. Who will win this massive top 10 showdown in week 1, not only between the two Death Valleys, but the two best Tigers in college football between Clemson and LSU?
Well, I could just be a cheese ball and say the Tigers are going to win. Of course, I could do it. Max. I would never be wrong. That would be the best part about it. But I'm taking the home Tigers. The Clemson Tigers, I think that lack of balance for me, the questions on the offensive line from LSU, you talked about it before. If Clemson doesn't have balance, yes, they could have a problem. But I feel better about their situation, especially with what Cade Klubnik can add on the ground, than I do with Garrett Nussmeier. I need to see this LSU coverage unit play better before I start anointing anything. And obviously they got a lot of veteran transfers and players that we do like. I really like A.J. Halsey from Houston, the safety. I just think right now I feel better about Clemson being more well-rounded, especially in Clemson where they very, very rarely lose. And when they did even lose a game last year, it was against Louisville, who ran the ball all over them, and even South Carolina, who they had issues on the ground against. To me, if you're going to beat Clemson, got to run the football. I don't trust LSU's ability to do that against that defensive line. 2 one-dimensional. Clemson 34, LSU 26.
I have Clemson 35-24. I think Clemson's defensive line will dominate LSU up front, and I think Cade Klubnik and the elite group of weapons he has, which is a top 3 receiving core in the country, in my opinion, there'll be way too much for LSU's new look defense to handle. I think it'll take LSU some time. I think LSU's defense will be improved from what we saw the last few years, but it'll take some time with all those new pieces there in that defense in this kind of game too. So I think Clemson's offense will have success, and I think Clemson's defensive line will take over this game. I think this would be, when you and I talk about this game on Sunday morning on the review show, we're saying, yeah, they went off against LSU's offensive line. I think Clemson's D-line will be the difference.
And one other thing to note is a lot of those teams that ran well on Clemson last year, they ran to the edges. Okay, you mentioned Texas in the outside zone when we covered that playoff game. Louisville did the same thing. They got to the edges. LSU does not run to the edges very much at all. Their run game, when they do use it, is very straight ahead, very between the tackles. I think at the end of the day, Peter Woods is a massive problem for this LSU Tiger team, especially running the football. I think he could really take over the game on the inside.